A very good morning to respected delegates, chairpersons, and my dear colleagues. Myself, Dr. Satya Tejasvi from Vishnu Dental College, Bhimavaram, presenting a case of 26-year-old female patient complaining with a pain and swelling in the right upper back tooth region since 5 months. She also gave a history of sudden onset of swelling and intermittent lancinating pain with a history of radiating pain towards the nose also. Other histories that include medical, family, and drug history were not significant. And there was no abnormality detected on extraoral examination. Coming to intraoral examination, intraorally, a well-defined solitary swelling was observed on the right hard palate region that was away from the mid-palatine raphe, and it extends anteroposteriorly from the incisor to the premolar region. In this case, we also found an incidental finding that was the retained deciduous tooth, deciduous canine, that made us to think that the pathology might associated with an unerupted tooth. The surface of the swelling was erythematous. On palpation, the consistency of the swelling was hard and non-tender. And there was no evidence of intraoral expansion, bone expansion. And other intraoral findings were also not significant. By considering the hard consistency of the swelling, patient was advised to get a radiograph. On radiographic examination, OPG shows a well-defined radiolucency, that was extending from the apices of these teeth till the roof of the maxillary sinus. Within this radiolucency, we also observed a mixed radiolucent and radio opacities, where these radio opacities implies foci of calcifications. On examination of IOPA, we were able to appreciate a apical root resorption of the premolars. Occlusal radiograph reveals a well-defined radiolucency surrounded by a sclerotic border. Along with these radiographs, she also underwent computed tomogram. Axial slice of this CT shows hyperdense and hyperdense areas that implies both radial opacities and radiolucencies, along with an impacted canine inferior to it. So by correlating all these clinical and radiographic features, the possible differential diagnosis was given as a benign odontogenic lesion with hard tissue formation. So considering the consistency and considering these radiographic and clinical features, we advised the patient for excisional biopsy. After excisional biopsy, we received specimens that were gritty and firm in consistency on gross examination. On histopathological examination under low power view, there was evidence of numerous odontogenic epithelial islands and cell rests admixed with surrounding primitive ectomesenchyme. Along with these islands and ectomesenchyme, we were also able to see a multiple irregular calcified deposits. Under high power view, here there was evidence of initiation of ameloblastic differentiation, and also we can also appreciate the basophilic nature of these calcified deposits that implies hard tissue formation. This is a clear picture in which there was evidence of inductive phenomenon that implies epithelial and ectomesenchymal interactions that leads to the formation of hard tissue that include enamel dentin. This picture shows the myxoid appearance of mesenchyme. In this case, we observed multiple odontogenic epithelial islands. Some of the epithelial rests shows a clear cell changes resembling the dental follicle. In order to confirm the origin of these odontogenic epithelial islands, we have performed cytokeratin immunohistochemical staining and these islands shown positive for cytokeratin, which confirms its diagnosis. By correlating all these clinical, radiographic, immunohistochemical staining, and also the microscopic features, we have reported final differential diagnosis as complex odontome associated with an impacted tooth or ameloblastic fibro-odontome. By considering the microscopic features of numerous odontogenic epithelial islands and rests, some are showing inductive phenomenon that leads to the formation, that implies the formation of hard tissue, and also surrounding ectomesenchyme, preventive ectomesenchyme. By considering all these features, we have reported the case as ameloblastic fibro-odontoma. But according to the recent classification of odontogenic tumors in 2017, ameloblastic fibro-odontoma was not considered as a separate entity, but it was supposed to be a part of spectrum of microscopic changes in odontoma formation. I would like to conclude that clinicians, while dealing these cases that are present in, while dealing these radiopaque masses or hard swellings in the right posterior maxilla, should keep the possibility of mixed odontogenic tumors in mind.
Okay.
And also, as the lesion is benign lesion, enucleation is a promising therapy and followed by a long-term follow-up. Here, in this case, we have performed enucleation. After 1 year follow-up, there was no recurrences evident. So, thank you. I would like to thank organizing committee, and I personally thank Dr. Mandana Madam and my HOD, Dr. Ravikant Manyam, and the faculty of our department, Department of Oral Medicine and Radiology, Department of Oral Surgery, and management of Vishnu Dental College for giving me this great opportunity to present this case. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Satya Tejaswini. A nice presentation. I think there are some queries. TV Narayan sir has asked a question like, what cytokeratins were done to establish the odontogenic origin? Which cytokeratin marker?
CK5 and 17. Sir.
CK5 and 17. Okay. Any other queries? Any other questions?
Deepshika?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now just a comment, not a question. Now,
okay,
as you
sir.
correctly said,
okay, sir.
The ameloblastic fibroadenoma and ameloblastic fibroadentinoma have been removed from the classification in 2017. But not everybody is convinced of that decision. Now, we have started the new edition of WHO Blue Book right now, but still we are having discussions, heated arguments as to what we should do. Because a lot of people, think all these ameloblastic fibroodontomas and dentinomas are developing odontomes. The reasonable proportion of them, yes. I think large majority of them, yes, they are probably developing odontomes. How old is this patient?
26 years, sir.
26, right. You see the 26 now, if you consider odontoma as a haematoma, by this time it should not grow, yes. Right? Yes. So it should be static. Yes. Did you have any history of it is enlarging recently, or it was the same size?
No, sir. There were no recurrences evident, sir, after 1 year follow-up, after that patient.
No. Before that, was it enlarging or just static for last few years?
I didn't get you, sir.
Last few years,
pipes, sir, asking.
The last few years, is the lesion expanding or it was static, not growing?
No, so sir, no, sir. There was no expansion of the lesion, swelling.
Right. So, in odontoma, we cannot expect that, they to grow after the growth ceases. But there are some cases of amyloid fibroadenoma, stroke odontoma, they keep on growing. So we don't know whether they really fit to the category of odontoma.
Yes.
Now, this is a very difficult area, but still, you know, the lot of people keep on diagnosing amyloid fibroadenoma, but I don't think even this time we are going to have answers. But what we need to do is the take-home message. Yes, large majority of them are developing odontomas, but very small minority of cases are slightly unusual. Because this is a matter of histodifferentiation and morph differentiation. If you look at odontome, amyloid fibroadenoma and amyloblastoma, when you go from amyloid fibroma to odontome, there is morph differentiation. So therefore, it's a very difficult and very critical area where we do not have enough literature actually. So we have gone through all the available literature. Literature is not adequate at the moment for us to get firm decisions. Right? It's just a comment. Your presentation was good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.